Okay, today we are at the Humane Society in Stillwater on Main Street, and I'm speaking with Jackie, and we're just going to have her explain to us a lot actually, of what she does, what her team does, and can you describe, to start with for our viewers, what your organization does? I think everyone is pretty familiar that you help rehome pets, but I think there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, there is a lot more to that. So the Humane Society was started in the early 1980s, from my understanding, and a group of city councilmen decided that the city shelter was euthanizing too many adoptable animals. So they developed the Humane Society. And so what we do is once a week we go to our city shelter, which, handy enough, it's right next door to us.
We went there by accident.
Right. So they do intake. They do all the intake. They do all the owner surrenders. They take all the animals in that need placed. If it's a stray, they hold it for 5 days to try and find an owner. If no one claims it, then they actually put it up for adoption. And if they can't find it a home, instead of back in the day where they just go through and euthanize everyone because they only have 13 pens, I go take them. We take all the adoptable animals and then we keep them until we find them a home. So that's our partnership. People get us confused a lot because we don't do intake. We are not the people that go out and check the welfare of animals. We're just a bunch of individuals, mostly volunteers, who tried to help make Stillwater a no-kill city by taking adoptable animals, and then we keep them until we find them a home.
Okay, so, and you're private funded versus their...
Correct. We rely, they're city, they're part of the police department.
Okay.
So they're this animal department.
Okay.
We are a private shelter, so we run on donations and grants. That's how we keep our doors open.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. And what do your... I'm not sure that members is the right word, because do you have membership or just...
We do. We have a membership. It's $20 to become a member of the Humane Society. And more or less what that gets you is you can be a voting member at our board meetings. I have 13 board members.
Okay.
We meet once a month, and they help me make big major decisions, especially when it comes to money and funding, those kind of things. The decisions that are made on a daily basis down here, though, those are kind of on my shoulders, but anything having to do with money, fundraising, all of that, that goes through my 13 board members.
Okay, and does anything come to mind about what your board members might love most about being a part of the Stillwater Humane Society?
Well, of course, everyone that's involved loves animals. That's the one thing I always hear is I want to help the animals because I dislike people, which is funny because I deal more with people than I deal with animals on a daily basis. So you kind of have to find that happy medium. But everyone on the board, we have veterinarians on the board, we have lawyer on the board. But most people are just, we're animal lovers, and we know that we can make a difference in the homeless animals of Stillwater. And why not have a shelter for adoptable animals instead of them euthanizing everything? It doesn't make any sense. So we get together, we do fundraisers, we keep the animals happy and healthy until we get them adopted out. And we all love what we do.
So how many volunteers do you have on a regular basis?
Wow, that's a good question because I've been here 10 years. And the last 4 or 5 years, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but we've had too many volunteers, which is almost unusual for a person to say. I think it has a lot to do with the school. A lot of kids that are going to OSU or NOC or even the high school, they have to do service hours. And they pick us because we're pretty easy to do and everyone loves animals.
Yeah, more than people.
Right. So unfortunately we got to the point where we had so many people that now we have started a new volunteer system where you actually go on our website and you self-schedule. So I know how many people I have coming from 4 to 5 and from 5 to 6. I had one group call and they wanted to bring 75 people here. On top of all my other volunteers. I said, we just can't physically do that anymore. It was stressing out my animals to the point of them misbehaving. So we now have a new structure in place where if anyone can volunteer, we just need you to go to our website, fill out the liability waiver, and pick what dates and times you want to come in. So it's better for our shelter, it's better for our animals, and bottom line, it has to be good for my animals for it to take place.
That's why you're here, so sure.
So we get a lot of volunteers. I try not to turn people down, but sometimes it's just overwhelming for the animals when they just went on 7 walks and there's someone waiting to walk them again, and they're like, no, I'm done. I just want to lay here for a minute, you know. So
well, I could see that.
Yeah, so it's a little more organized now.
Yeah, well, that was a good change.
Yeah.
And I hope the numbers stay up to where, that's a good problem to have.
Right,
as long as
right,
you can manage
right.
It. It's a
Yeah,
win for the
it is
animals,
an excellent problem to have. But when I go when I would walk through it, and my dogs' heads were literally hanging off their corunda beds. They were just exhausted. And you think about it, I personally only walk my dogs 2, maybe 3 times a day, and these dogs are getting walked 30 to 40 times a day, sometime more.
Wow.
If we have that many volunteers. So it just wasn't good for them.
Yeah.
So we had to make a change.
Wasn't natural for them.
No.
So how many
no.
pets do you have?
Oh goodness, I knew you were going to ask me that. We currently, my husband and I, have 6 dogs at our house. We're kind of the hospice for dogs that have issues. We currently have a dog that has Alzheimer's, and we've had him for a few years. We have a dog with bone cancer. We had a dog with heartworms for 3 years. So we kind of take home the dogs that need the extra TLC that I'm not comfortable handing over to someone else.
Yeah.
And then I have a couple cats too.
Okay. So all four-legged family
Mm-hmm.
friends are well represented in your house. Okay,
Yes.
so what do most people not know about the Stillwater Humane Society?
Probably the most frustrating thing for me is the difference between Stillwater Animal Welfare and the Humane Society of Stillwater. We get a lot of phone calls, people wanting to give me animals, people want me to go check the welfare of an animal. There's a skinny horse out on a road because we're called the Humane Society.
Yeah.
There are so many animal shows out there nowadays, especially like Animal Planet and stuff, and they see the words Humane Society and they think we're this great big huge shelter with officers and trucks and all this money, and really it's just me and Deb when we're open.
Yeah.
Everyone else is volunteers. So we just don't have that. We don't have that setup like we do on some of the big humane societies. So, and then the other fact is that we're a nonprofit. We receive no local, state, or national funding. We're not a part of the Humane Society of the United States. We're not a part of any ASPCA. We're just a small shelter. You know, I'd rather be called Whiskers Place or something because we wouldn't get confused as much. Some people are donating to the Humane Society of the United States and they think that money's coming to here, and it's not.
Okay.
So we really try to educate the public.
So if our community members want their donation dollars to come here, they need to come here or contact you
or go
and
to our
actually
website
make
or go
the
to Facebook.
donation
Yes.
to the
yes.
Stillwater Humane Society. Well, that's a good point to make. Thank you for that. And so how many years you've said, remind me, how many years have you been here?
10 years ago in July, I started as a volunteer.
Okay. And
And
why
then-
did you decide to go from volunteer to
Well,
the head of?
I'm actually a public health microbiologist by trade. Big word for someone who sat in a lab for over 20 years. My husband works for the government, the Department of Agriculture, so we move around a lot, and I've always volunteered in animal shelters. And I walked into this animal shelter. We'd been living in a motel with our animals, and he's working. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And this little tiny shelter had over 70 dogs and about 65 cats, and I was the only volunteer that walked through the door that day.
So things have changed.
So I walked through the door and I said, how can I help you? And there was one lady in the office, and she said to me, my cat caretaker hasn't shown up for 2 days. If you want to go feed the cats, you can. And I went, okay. And from that day on, I came every day trying to make a difference. And then a couple board members came and was like, who's the lady in there cleaning cat cages? And she's like, oh, that's Jackie. And then within 3 months, they're like, hey, you want to run this place? And I'm like, I don't know how to run an animal shelter, but I know I could do better for the animals of Stillwater.
Yeah.
And so 10 years later, we've cleaned the places up. We now have 17 dogs instead of 65. We now have 12 cats instead of 70. They're all healthy. They're all friendly. And the public likes us again. So it's kind of exciting.
That's great. And what has surprised you most in the time you've been here?
The fact that the community is such a huge support for us. I am not.
That's a good surprise.
Yes, I am not someone who likes to go and ask for things. I don't like that. But people are so welcoming to that when it comes to animals, because not only are we helping the animals, we're helping people. I started a pet food pantry, so for people who, I love my dog, but I can't afford to feed it. Well, instead of you bringing me my dog or your dog, how about if I give you a bag of food? You know, when I was growing up in Iowa, we didn't take our animals to the vet. We didn't feed them. You know, if our dog got real sick or something, you know, we threw some scraps out. That's the way I was raised. So I understand. I loved those animals. I loved my cats. They were amazing. But when you just don't have the money for it, doesn't mean you don't love them. You just need a little bit of help. So why not give them a bag of food? So I started that a few years ago, and that has been a huge help.
Okay, so where do you get the food from? Just donations from
I
people in the
reached out
community?
to the community again. We get all of the broken bags from from all 3 Walmarts. So anything that's broken, anything that's almost expired. Tractor Supply is amazing. Food Pyramid's amazing. All I had to do was to reach out and say, hey, how can you help me with this? And Tractor Supply last week brought me a half a pallet of food.
Wow.
So that feeds my animals, and it might feed some of the community animals too.
Yeah.
So it's just a great partnership that we've been able to build with everybody.
It sounds like it.
Even OSU, when they're going through their food depot up there and they have some bags that are close to expiring, guess what? We'll use it. Yeah.
All right. Well,
so,
that's great
yeah.
to know that the community is
Yes,
so
yes.
open.
And Facebook, I had put on there I needed fleece blankets, and at 1 o'clock someone walked through the door with 40 fleece blankets. So social media has been a godsend at points. You know, when I need something, I just reach out.
Okay. Well, what is the most memorable experience you've had here, either with an animal or with maybe an adoptive person who came through the doors?
10 years I could go on and on and on about stories. One of the reasons I started the pet food pantry is I came to work one day and there was a lady crying in her car, and she had her dog with her and she was just sobbing, and I went up to her and I said, what's going on? She was like, I can't keep my dog anymore. And I said, oh, what happened, you know? And just sobbing, and she goes, well, I priced out how much it cost me to feed him and how much gasoline that could go in my car, and I can't do both. And I said, I will give you a bag of food.
Good for you.
And that started the pet food pantry. And she, to this day, will come in and hug me and say, you know, show me pictures of her and her dog and how good they're doing. And she doesn't have to stop in for food anymore. She got back on her feet, and she's able to do both.
Wow.
You know, so not only did I make a difference for that dog, it didn't end up going to an animal shelter, but that lady got to keep her best friend because
so
I
you
handed
rescue
her.
dogs and sometimes their
And
owners.
sometimes owners.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll stop there with that one. I just want to ask you to remind the viewers what your hours are for coming maybe to volunteer, and if you're interested in adopting a pet.
We're open Tuesday through Friday, 1 to 6. We're open Saturday, 11 to 5, and we're open Sunday, 1 to 5. So the only day we're closed is Monday, but we're still here. Don't think the animals aren't getting attention that day. We're still here. My office is just closed.
Okay, and to volunteer, what website do they go to?
hspets.org.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Yes.